Is it frozen? It looks like it's still frozen.
The picture's frozen.
Oh,
although we look pretty sweet there.
We look pretty good. Okay, well, it looks like we're live. So welcome to the banter. As always, we're having some technical problems on our end, but maybe drop a comment. Yeah, drop a comment in the chat to see like if you guys can like see and hear us. That would be great to know that. And yeah, there's not a lot of good ways to like test and check, but okay. Taryn says it's fine. Good, cool. Let's do it. Ready? We'll start now.
3, 2, 1, and
well, welcome to the banter. My name's Lucas.
My name's Greg,
and we're super excited that you've joined us today. Whether you're watching live or you're catching this as a replay on the podcast or on Facebook or YouTube or anything like that, we're excited that you're here, and I'm excited to be here with you, Pastor Gregory.
Ooh. Director Lucas.
Yeah. I have so many names for you because you're my father-in-law too, which explains why we're not wearing masks, because we're kind of in the same household.
Yeah.
But I could call you like Dad or Papa or Pastor Greg.
Yeah.
Mr. McRobbie. Do you ever get that?
Nope. I wouldn't even, I doubt I'd even look if somebody said that.
Mr. When I was growing up, I had to call everybody Mr. or Mrs.
Yeah. My age was the transitional one. I remember when friends of mine would call adults by their first name.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, we can't do that. What are you doing? You're going to get into so much trouble.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Wow. We haven't actually done the banter live for more than a week because we were on vacation.
That's right.
Out in the Bahamas, eh?
Oh, almost. in our minds. How was your holiday?
It was good. We spent one night in a hotel in Canada, just with my boys, and just you can like book the pool.
Oh,
so
sweet.
You have the whole pool to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So my kids love that. And Grayson had the whole thing was planned. So we got like chicken nuggets and pizza.
Oh,
and we just like,
that's holiday.
Let him
holiday.
Have it. Yeah. So it's fun. How about you?
Cool. Oh, nothing much. We just moved. Finally, that's behind us. So that's great. It was a just super intense week. My body is still in pain.
I bet.
From all the moving, lifting, relocating, and then all the cleaning up at the old place, getting that ready for the new people to move in.
Yeah.
And then at the new place, everything had to be inside. All like we were moving our family, but we were also moving Julie's business.
Yeah.
And we were moving all the business stuff. That's all the toys out that were in front of the house, everything and the back of the house and the side of the house all have to be inside right now because
there's no sod.
We have like this lunar landscape around us right now. It's just, well, I guess not lunar because it's dry there, but it's like a muddy sinkhole all around the house. So we, trying to get everything clear so that we can kind of forge pathways through. You
were saying that when you moved your motorcycle, you couldn't even use the kickstand because it would like sink into the mud. I could use
the kickstand, but it would have keeled right over because the driveway is too soft.
Oh my goodness.
So lots of fun.
But it was fun. It was fun to have. It's always good to have just like have a week off and kind of let your brain decompress from everything. And
that's right. Different mode. The body was working harder, but the brain was refreshing a little bit.
Your house is so I helped him move, and his old house, it felt like there was all these small rooms and you have to like turn all through these like little corridors and stuff. And then the new one, it's just like a door and then the whole house.
Big echo chamber. Yeah. It's like, hello.
So it was funny. But I remember as we were packing up your house, or packing up the truck, I like realized this is only half of the job. And then we have to unpack it.
I know.
But you had to do that for the whole week. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, and with COVID, it's like, oh, I really miss all our friends right now, especially while we're like the 6,000th time going up the ramp, picking up something, right?
For real.
So thankfully there's family close by.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's good to be back at the banter. All we want to do with this banter is have great conversations about life and faith. And we want to try to connect things that we're learning through our church services to connect those with community and what it looks like to like kind of live out our faith in community. And sometimes we just like unpack a little bit more some of the things that we explore on our Sunday services. So we're going to do that a bit today. And it's fun. It's really fun to just come in and chit chat with you and with you guys. We can see your chat room here. So if you have things to say, or if you're like, if you have questions about what we're talking about right now, if you're watching this live, then we can try to address those in person. Yeah. So Sweet. This has been a cool series.
Yeah.
This was my week. Wow.
This was your week, and you were talking about inadequacy.
Yes. And I don't
Did you feel up to it?
Yeah. I didn't really feel like I should have been talking. It was feeling pretty inadequate.
It's funny. And you had mentioned that about the doctors, how, they're in the middle of prescribing something, or what came to my mind was a surgeon just about to slice open somebody's chest for open heart surgery. And that little voice in the back of the mind going, what are you doing? You're like that. It's crazy. Because usually you think, medical doctors, they're on top of it. They totally confident in what they're doing. But it's a good reminder. Inadequacy is something that we all have to deal with, right? Yeah.
I think inadequacy, when I was learning about it this week, it's a little bit more than not feeling confident. It's a little subtle. I feel like there's a subtle difference than not being confident, because it's like you really feel like, wow, like I don't have what it takes. Not just I have what it takes, but I don't really believe in myself. I feel like it's a stronger emotion to feel that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably that feeling of just walk out of the room.
Yeah.
Like, don't even try.
Don't even try.
Yeah. I've never felt that.
No, I've never, ever.
Yeah, I know. So we just have to project. We have to pretend. All the time. Man. All the time. There's a couple of questions that we've got that love to hear your thoughts on, your feedback on. The first one is just about the relationship between inadequacy and fear and love. At the beginning of your message, you talked about, I think it was 1 John, perfect love drives out fear. There's no fear in love and all this kind of thing. And we're supposed to remain in God's love. And the question that came in was this, if feeling inadequate means that we're not remaining in God's love, does that mean that God is kind of not loving us now? Does he stop loving us? Is his love for us somehow conditional on making sure that we don't feel inadequate and somehow stop remaining in his love?
Yeah. No. This was kind of fun. It took me back to Bible college days, where you kind of have a question and then you build a case against it or for it. And so it's not always the best thing to do to like jump all over scripture to answer really specific questions. But I did pull a few verses that I think the bottom line is no, like there's nothing that we can do that God, like there's nothing that we can do where God doesn't love us. But I thought it'd be good to maybe start from a truth about who God is and then go into a truth about who we are. Because I think that's like a good progression. I always think it's the most important thing to like have a really good understanding of who God is, because he never changes, and then start to like go into who we are and why, like how does who he is affect who we are. So
sounds good.
God is love. 1 John 4:8. 4:8. I can barely read my own writing. 1 John 4:8 just says God is love. So like God, it's such a simple phrase, God is love, but like it's more than a character trait about who he is. He's not only a loving God, he's not only a loving person, but he actually is the essence of love itself. Yeah. Like he
I think it's talking more there than just he's emotionally warm toward us.
Right.
Like it's more than when it says God is love, it's not just saying that he's a warm, mushy, gushy, lovey-dovey guy.
Yeah.
Like, can you maybe touch on that a little bit?
I want to pull up the verse because it is good to probably read in you probably have memorized this whole verse. So actually maybe I'll put it back on you. Well, I'll put it up here. Let me see. 1 John 4:8. 1 John 4.
I have so many memorized that I can't remember which one it is right now.
Here we go. Okay. So this is John talking. When we've been talking a lot in John, he goes, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." So it's like, and John talks about love all the time, but it's totally more than, oh, my grandpa loves me and gives me a big hug when I go over. Mm-hmm. It's like before any creature had an understanding of what love could look like, God already was love. Mm-hmm. Like he's the fundamental picture of love. And he actually, like, I think it's so important to take it all the way back to like before the creation of time. He was love then, not just how we experience it today.
Yeah. I love the distinction of love being kind of that intention and action mm-hmm. of doing what's best for the other person, instead of doing kind of loving things for my own benefit. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm giving you a hug so that you'll like me more, something like that, where I'm underneath there. It's actually me there. God's love is he's intentionally doing what's best for that other person. Whether that person likes it at the moment is even a different question. You know?
We've talked about that I think in the Heavenly series, we talked about that, how like sometimes we have no idea why God is doing something, but it's because he knows what's best and he loves us.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it might hurt, but it's going to be good in the end.
Yeah.
God never changes. There's another character trait about God, another truth about who he is. He never ever changes. So he is love, and he's always been love, and he will always be love. He never ever changes. And that's like, as I was going through Bible college, I remember learning this is different than some other religions. Like other religions have gods that they believe are gods, but they would have this belief system that those gods are allowed to change, mm-hmm. and like can change, and like that. For me, that's like a no-go because I don't want the one who has all the power to change. Like I want to be able to trust him. And we talked a little bit about trust.
That'd be a scary world.
Yeah. But God, like the one true God does not change. And so, in Hebrews, it talks about Jesus never ever changing. And in James, it talks about there's no shadow due to change. Like he just is. And that's how he introduced himself to Abraham, was I am. Like he's just never ever changes. So the fact that he loves and he loves his children, so he is love and he also shows the act of love, that never ever changes. Whether we're feeling inadequate or lonely or depressed or whatever we're ever feeling in life, like he still is love.
So the remaining in his love is not a function of, it's not from God's end. It's not like remaining in God's love has something to do with God either kind of withholding his love because of some choice. It's something from our end then, right?
Yeah. We have the choice to approach or deny.
Yeah. Receive or press back. Sure. That sounds good.
And then I think the last thing is like when you come to faith in Jesus, like his sacrifice for us on the cross, like when you come to genuine faith, like that doesn't change. Like you are covered by his blood. So Ephesians 2:13, we've been brought, I can't read my own writing, brought near by Jesus' blood.
Yeah.
So whether we feel it gooey in our hearts, whether we feel love, whether we feel whatever we feel, when we come to genuine faith in Jesus, like that is never ever changing. So his love covers us. And it's like the typical verses that you hear, like John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Like those things are just truths about who God is. Like he give us love. He gives us his love, whether we like feel it or whatever. And again, like I think with the genuine faith in Jesus, again, like if it's truly genuine, that doesn't change either. No matter what you feel up and down in life, like end of the day, I believe that God is who he says he is, and I believe who Jesus is. And so you kind of, that's part of remaining in him too.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things you talked about in your message was one of the things that you found helpful for remaining in his love and for kind of building up strength against feelings of inadequacy and all that kind of thing. You called it a replenishment cycle. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you could kind of share a little bit more about what that cycle looks like, how it works, and how it helps.
So this is way more practical than talking about the theology of God being love.
Yep. It's got to get our boots on the ground at some point, right?
I've said this so many times as I've worked here, and I think it's so important to take care of ourselves. But if we do it kind of in a haphazard way, then it might not get done. So then you go for months, and I don't know, some people have like kind of a thing that they do once in a while that they feel helps them to replenish, but they only have one or two things, like I like to read, for example, but you just kind of do that. But like at some point it's like feels like not enough. So the replenishment cycle was introduced to me by a worship leader in America somewhere, I think in like Tennessee or something. And he's just said, as a worship leader, we really need to be pouring into ourselves and spending time with God alone and spending time like replenishing our souls so that we can pour ourselves out for our congregation as we're leading worship. And it just really hit me. And so he had this whole like structure that you basically fill in the blanks and figure out what works for you to feel really rested and to feel good. So it's a frequency thing. So you basically figure out things that replenish you. And it kind of goes from like the least time consuming to like bigger time consuming. So like every single day, just doing one thing, there's a small thing that replenishes your soul. Then weekly, monthly, seasonally was a new one for me, because a lot of times it's like what worked in the winter might not work in the summer. And just like every 3 months doing something kind of bigger, and then yearly, and then like
can you maybe give an example of something that would be a seasonal, pick a season?
So, I mean, if you love skiing, you can't really go skiing in the fall.
Not without a helicopter or something to get you there.
To the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah. So for me, like these are just really practical examples. Like every day I have a coffee by myself. Like sometimes it's only a few minutes. When we were working in the building, I would go for a walk almost every day that I would work here at Brookside, just like go for a walk around the corner. Usually it's at like 1:00. I just have a downtime where like I wouldn't be productive even if I tried. So,
kind of like at staff meeting time. It's like,
you always
we'll have to change that.
Oh my goodness. So that's just my downtime, and I just like to do something to replenish and focus on something else for a bit and kind of get more creative. Weekly, I usually try to get go for a coffee alone. I don't know why going for a coffee alone is so appealing to me, but it works for me really well. Every month, go for like a proper date night with my wife, Taryn. During COVID, that's harder to go out, but we do something, even if it's just put the kids to bed a bit early or something, just to like do something that has nothing to do with productivity or work or anything, just love and my family.
Yeah.
Seasonally, usually we, as a family, we try to get away like for a night somewhere, or like every few months, just like try to go do something out of the normal. And then yearly, I've only done this a couple times, but like taking a full day, like morning till night, and like spending it alone in prayer and quietness, and like usually at a coffee shop. That's what I love to do. Or like one of my dreams would be to rent a hotel room for the whole day and just like spend time worshiping and praying and sleeping and just like replenishing. So those are kind of things.
Yeah. Love to find a cabin in the woods somewhere.
Cabin in the woods. Yep.
Little lake. Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. Be hard to keep it to one day.
I know. Like, and sometimes it's funny because all this stuff is like, it seems a bit selfish. Like, well, why would you do all that? But it's really out of a place of, I want to spend time with God. So I talked about this on the weekend. Like all of this from my perspective, needs to start and kind of go with and end with like acknowledging God and his presence and in prayer.
Yeah. I think there's an important thing to keep in mind for people. Like often we'll hear a lot in our culture about self-care. And there's sometimes this pushback in Christian circles that it's like, no, you're supposed to be just about everybody else, and you're just supposed to be focused on God and others, and that's it. And it's easy to miss that last little statement in that greatest, and I think you mentioned it on Sunday, the greatest commandment. What is it? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And love your neighbor as
yourself.
As yourself.
Yeah.
The assumption is that we're taking care of ourselves too.
Yeah.
And
and I was surprised to see some of the biblical authors kind of mentioning that, almost like as they pass by some other concept, as if it's like so obvious.
Yeah.
But we don't find it that obvious.
Yeah. The number of times Jesus said to his disciples, "Hey, let's get out of here."
Yeah. He goes off and prays. Yeah. Like for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody if they've heard all this and it's all great and they're going to try it, and then like tomorrow they're just overcome with this major wave of inadequacy and they feel like, oh, I can't do any, like what would you say to somebody like right in that moment?
First, I would say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Like that's hard, and that, like, I want to acknowledge that that you might feel that way. You might feel that way sometimes. Like I feel that way sometimes.
Yep.
And it's like, I just want to, like, that's really real. And so I would just like give you some comfort in that. And like, you're okay to be in that moment.
Yeah.
And yet, like, I really believe that we are made to like strive for excellence, and like the values we have at the church come into play. Even in my mind, I'm like, serve first, aim high, like all of that. So even when we're feeling inadequate, I just think it's so important to like dig really deep in the scripture, in yourself, like do whatever it takes. And so I suppose it's hard to be like, do these three things, but I think the most important thing is figure out what works for you. So maybe there was a time where you didn't feel inadequate. Maybe there was a time when you felt like on top of the world, like you could accomplish anything. Like go to that, and then go a moment before that and do whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, figure out what it is and spend the time and like write it down somewhere, like do the work of doing that, because these times will come when you feel inadequate. And sometimes if you don't even know, like if you didn't know, oh, when I pray to God, I feel more adequate. Or when I spend time in worship, I feel more connected to God, more confident. If you didn't know that those things worked for you, like if you didn't consciously know that, then it would be harder to do it when you're in that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of meta.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Like one of the things that I often think about is that having faith in that moment, and that's really what I often come back to is like, I don't feel adequate in myself. I can't do this, but what I need is not more faith in myself. I need more faith in God.
Right.
And one of the things that helps me is recognizing that having more faith doesn't mean necessarily an emotional high. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, now I'm going to feel like Superman and I'm going to be able to do this super easy. It's like, no, I still feel inadequate. But I'm trusting God, and I'm going to do it anyway. And that sense of, I'm going to do this anyway because I'm trusting you, God. You're going to have to come through. And I'm amazed at how often he does.
It reminds me of the time when Jesus is in the water in the boat, and there's waves everywhere, and the disciples are freaking out, and he's like asleep, just like fine. And just the power that he wakes up, and he just is like, why are you guys freaking out? And he just tells the water to be still. I don't even imagine him yelling at. I just say, like, imagine him just saying, be still.
Hey, cut it out.
Yeah. And the whole, everything changes. So like God has so much power. And another interesting thing about that moment is he didn't boast about it. Like, look, like I have so much power and I can do all this. He just did it with confidence, like trusting that it was okay. And then like moved on. And didn't really give a whole moment to celebrate this whole huge miracle or whatever. It just like pretty normal, like miracle, like, I think just trusting in God's power, like in real time.
Yeah. And for me, recognizing that when Jesus got up and said, peace be still, that was not the moment that he assumed control over the situation. He was in control all along. So even with the waves going everywhere, he was still, they were still safe with him. And just trusting that in those moments before the stillness, God is still there. He's trustworthy, and we can rely on him. That's excellent. Yeah. Cool.
Yay. So it's a fun series. We have 2 more weeks left.
2 more weeks
until Easter.
Yep.
And
including Easter. Yeah.
Including Easter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's been a fun series. Keep on sending in questions for the banter. We love chit-chatting about this. I feel like every time we talk for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's fun.
We're going to need a large clock.
With
flashing lights on the wall or something.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching online with us right now, or if you're checking this out later on. Thanks for being here with us. And of course, we hope to see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
See you around.